Into every generation, podcasters are born. Two guys in all the world, chosen ones. They alone will wield the strength and skill to discuss the vampires, demons, and the forces of darkness, to lament the spread of their evil and the swell of their number. This is the Untitled Buffy Project. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Untitled Buffy Project. This episode, entitled Fear Itself, finds the Scooby Gang terrorized by their own fears and insecurities at a frat party. It's college, you know. This episode was written by David Fury and directed by Tucker Gates. Boo! It's the Halloween episode. Are you scared?
Well, not by the end of the episode.
I think Buffy, they say in this episode that demons and like the forces of evil don't put a lot of stock in Halloween because it's the day that mortals go seeking fear. So like this would be the day that people would in the evil community would take off. So I feel like every Halloween episode they tried to do something a little bit different. There was an earlier one where they all changed into their costumes in Sunnydale, so you had like ghosts who turned into actual ghosts.
That's an amazing episode. It's called Halloween. You should check it out. It's in season 2. That is an important episode for season 4 because Xander turned into a soldier, and when he turned back, he retained all of his knowledge of being a soldier. So he actually used that in the second episode, I think. Did that happen in season 4? Maybe I'm making this up. This episode opens up with one of the best shots of Buffy that I've seen. The camera is inside. I don't know how they did this. They must have... Sean, do you have any insight? It was inside a pumpkin.
Yeah, it was a removed bottom, some kind of special rig.
I think that there must have been a cut. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that they cut so the camera comes out of the pumpkin. Obviously, the pumpkin didn't have a back, and then they cut to Buffy, and then they come back with a wider angle, and the pumpkin is there. And I was just sort of like, "Ooh, how creative!" I feel like this is the second or third really creative shot that I've seen in season 4, and maybe they were doing this in season 3, and I haven't gotten to those episodes yet. But I don't remember in the previous early episodes of them being really creative with shots and angles as they have been in season 4. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it looks really good. We're watching it on Netflix, and I'm sure this was aired in 4:3 ratio. And of course, it wasn't HD, but it is in HD 720 on Netflix, and it's in widescreen, and it looks like it was shot last year.
Yeah, it looks great. I think off air I remarked to Sean when we started watching season 4 that I said something like, "When did they switch everything? You know, like it's a widescreen. It looks great." The early Buffy episodes look like Power Rangers. It looks like early 90s. It's really poor quality.
Even though it was late 90s.
The reason why I said Power Rangers is, I don't know if you caught this, Sean, but the Black Ranger is in this episode.
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, and it's hard to not sound racist when you say this, but you know the black guy who like runs up to the frat and it's like, "Hey, I got the stuff."
Oh yeah.
That's the Black Ranger.
Okay. Well, he did say that, so I don't think that's racist.
And when in my notes, I even have this. I have all capital letters. Dude, it's the Black Ranger! I think that this is probably close to maybe just a couple years after when Power Rangers ended, so...
Did you notice the other crossover with a series that we've talked about many times?
No.
You hadn't mentioned it yet, so I wasn't bringing it up until we got on air. The frat house, you didn't recognize it at all?
No.
The frat house, the exterior, is the house from American Horror Story.
Shut the f*** up.
It is.
Are you kidding me?
It is the mansion from American Horror Story. I thought that I recognized it. They didn't show it from the angles that we recognize it from the show. So, like, I saw an angle of it, and I was like, that looks kind of like that mansion. And I had my computer sitting on my lap, so I just pulled up the wiki, and sure enough, there it is. Yep.
Really?
Yes! Isn't that bizarre? Small world after all. It's right there in LA.
Oh my god, you're right.
Yep. Freaky and bizarre.
You are so totally
Obviously they obviously all the interiors were sets. I mean, they had to destroy a bunch of it. But yeah, I just blew your mind, man.
I don't even know if I can keep going. That's incredible, man. Okay, well, we have more. I gotta like move on.
And we're done.
And we're done. So let's bring it on back. The way I'm gonna bring it on back is, oh my God, Giles is my favorite character.
Like I said, the Halloween episodes they feel a little bit different, and in this episode they take Giles and just like turn him on his head. Not only is he ridiculously silly, like he doesn't even want to be involved with the supernatural plot in this episode. He just wants to hand out candy.
Buffy rings his doorbell, and he's so excited that someone rang his doorbell, and he's like, "Happy Halloween!" It's you, Buffy.
It's probably like the middle of the afternoon. Like he's just waiting. He's excited.
Yeah, why is he? It was daylight out. Why is he like, I can give out candy? It's like, Giles, what are you doing, man?
It's probably the first time he's celebrated Halloween since he was a kid. He's always busy.
Oh my God. I just have everything he does in this episode is my favorite thing. He has this decoration. It's like a little zombie or something, or a Frankenstein monster, and he turns it on, and he does this little thing. He's like, "It's alive! See how he shakes."
Sometimes it's the simple things.
It's the simple things. I think that wow, what's his actor's name? Anthony
Stewart Head.
Anthony Stewart Head.
They call him Tony Head.
Tony Head is a very smart actor, or at least playing Giles he is. He really knows how to play Giles. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, he is one of just about every person.
So there's other stuff going on.
Everyone in Buffy's life is like, she's so focused on the job and looking for danger and whatever because she's trying to overcompensate for this whole Parker thing. And everyone in her life is like, take a day off. It's Halloween. Would you just go to a party and enjoy yourself?
Yeah, I have in my notes, I have, what is this, the Buffy can't deal with Parker show now? I think it was a little too heavy-handed at the beginning. Like, Buffy just can't deal. And, I don't know how I would have changed it, but I just thought that it was too much. I get that she's having issues, but I'm glad that they just sort of hit that point, made it as best as they could, and then moved on to like the fun stuff, because this episode is really fun. It's very, very fun. Poor Xander.
Yeah, he's going through this.
Realize that he's a townie.
Right. He's going through this, like Buffy's going through her rejection thing. Xander's going through this he's the guy who didn't go to college, but they go to college in the town that they grew up in, so he's still there. And he feels kind of inadequate, I guess.
One of the frat guys just says, like, "Oh, he looks so normal. Like, if you don't go to college, you must be, you must look like Gachnar."
Right.
There's a great line that Buffy's mom has in this episode that works really well in Buffy because of what the content of this series. She says, "It certainly doesn't help that my last boyfriend turned out to be a homicidal robot." Now, that's something that normal people might say metaphorically, but in the Buffy universe, that actually happened to her.
Yeah, it was John Ritter, and he really was a homicidal robot.
He really was, and I love.
Was that when she learned who Buffy was, or did she already know? I think that might have.
No, she didn't. No,
that didn't happen.
Joyce didn't learn that Buffy was a Slayer until near the end of season 2, and then that turned into a plot point for. That's why Buffy. That's one of the reasons why Buffy left Sunnydale.
Right.
For Los Angeles.
Okay.
I think that Joyce might have had some sort of inkling, like something's strange with my daughter. Although she's had that inkling.
Well, she did like
Buffy burns us.
Right. The burning the school down kind of. Yeah. I do like when Joyce shows up, though. She's a good character.
She's a really good character, and she's turned into being very supportive of Buffy. It's sort of like a parent who, like parent who's really enthusiastic that their kid is like a gymnast or a soccer player.
Yeah.
It just happens to be like Buffy's slayer.
This other thing.
Right. So the A plot, the main thing going on in this episode is this fraternity is putting on a Halloween party, and you have to go through like a haunted house thing to get to the party. And I don't think they ever addressed this, but somehow they get a hold of an old book that has magical incantations and stuff inside of it, and the frat guys paint one of those incantations onto as like a decoration, and Oz happens to drip some blood on it, which turns it on, I guess, and it becomes this thing that makes your fears sort of manifest themselves and take over you if you're in the house. And
I think that Giles said Gachnar, the guy who's like behind this, actually has manifested into the structure of the house itself. So it's like the house is alive.
There is a crew there, and they all get driven crazy, and they're all scared. And then the Scooby Gang shows up, and they show up, and they're like, "Hey, where is everybody?" And then
the house is like hidden everyone from them. They can't find anyone.
Yeah, that's right. I think that when they kind of come to their senses, they all think that they've been in different places, but they actually were all in one room.
Yeah, and they can't see each other.
Right. And actually, Xander, his fear is that his friends are not going to care about him anymore. So the way that manifests itself is that no one can hear or see him.
I watched this twice, and the second time I was looking for the exact moment where they stopped hearing him, and it was kind of funny. Poor guy.
Poor guy. Right. Willow, she is growing in her magic skills, and
she hopes she is.
Fear. That's right. And Buffy was very supportive of her until they actually got into trouble, and then she starts criticizing her.
Because Buffy's fear is that she won't be able to protect her friends, so she doesn't want Willow to do that because it's out of her control.
Right. Willow's fear is that her magic will go out of control, and obviously Oz's fear is that he will turn into a werewolf.
Oh man, I love watching him in the bathtub, just like urging himself not to change.
It's kind of that was sort of the very dramatic moment in what is mostly a comedic episode.
Mm-hmm. Oz's thing is very hard for him to deal with. He really struggles with it.
Yeah. Anya, of all people, is the one who gets Giles involved in this.
She didn't have a costume, so she was coming late, and she was going to meet them there, and she shows up in her big bunny costume, and there's no door to get into the party.
Yeah, and then she sees a window, like, stop being a window.
Giles is like, what, did she disappear from the house? And she's like, no, the window disappeared from the house. The girl was still there.
So the way we get introduced to Giles is one of my favorite moments of the entire episode. It's the Scooby Gang, they can see each other again, they kind of realize what's going on with the house, and Buffy says, we need help. We need the only person who can make sense of this. And then it just smash cuts to Giles in his like total ridiculous getup, just kind of like twiddling his thumbs, waiting for trick-or-treaters to come by with candy.
His sombrero with all the little danglies hanging off of it.
It was awesome. So
Anya explains the situation.
They go to the house, and there's no door. And Anya says, well, what do we do? And Giles says, we need to create a door.
And this is one of those moments that in Buffy, like, they'll say something like that, and then someone will, like, start muttering a spell, and, like, a portal will open. But no, not this time.
No, not this time. This time, Giles whips out a chainsaw. It's just too awesome.
Best moment in the show.
To live. Just too awesome. So he breaks in, creates a door,
and then continues to slaughter his way through the walls of the house to get to them, because every time he does it, it keeps closing up behind them.
Right. He gets to the Scooby Gang, he finds the book, and has another amazing line. Ah, Gachnar, of course.
Of course. I should have known this.
And then we get one of the best endings ever.
So he said he's reading the book, and he's like, and Buffy is like, how do we destroy it? And he says like, destroying the mark of Gachnar, and she doesn't listen to what he's saying. She just turns around and destroys she's like, what, puts her fist through the floor? Mm-hmm. And then he's like, will not destroy Gachnar, will actually speed up the summoning process. And everyone's like, oh no. And you see this like really dramatic like rise of Gachnar out of the floor. And then Alicia called it. Alicia like is watching it, and she's like, he's really tiny.
He's really tiny.
He's like 5 inches tall. And he has a super high-pitched voice.
I am the Prince of Nightmares!
And you're like, oh, this is one of those episodes.
Xander says, like, who's a little demon? And Giles says, don't taunt the demon, Xander.
And Xander's like, will it hurt me?
And Giles says, no, it's just tacky.
Buffy's like, as far as slaying goes, and he's like, size doesn't matter, so she just stomps on him.
Gachnar has a line right before
he says, stomps on him. He looks at her and he goes, they're all going to abandon you, you know?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I know.
And then there's like a sort of like an epilogue or a coda. They're all kind of hanging out at Giles' house, and he's looking through the book.
Anya explains why her bunny costume is scary, which still doesn't really explain why it's scary.
Right. And Giles is looking through the Gaelic the Gaelic book that had all the stuff to summon Gachnar, and he's like, oh, why didn't I read this part? It says right underneath. There's a little picture of Gachnar, a little drawing of him, and underneath it he says, that's Gaelic for actual size.
Why would it say that?
I thought that this episode, instead of being called Fear Itself, should have been called Actual Size.